Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and do you ever add extra tension to your life? Ladies and gentlemen, I do. I have existential crises about the end of the world, and I'm not afraid to admit it. You know, a while back I told you about something that gives me massive anxiety, and it's always been those, emergency alert videos, because every time you watch one of them, you always come across like a new end of the world scenario that could basically be plausible. Now, in a lot of cases, most of them end up being wars and nukes and stuff like that, sometimes an SCP. But one way the world ends is with a meteor. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I believe if that day ever comes, no person in human society will ever take it seriously, because I think a lot of the mainstream news article websites have actually ruined it all for us. Now, some of my favorite things, one that I basically had sparked up in discussions with the boys over at the official podcast, Hugbees, Jackson, Kaya, Charlie brought this whole thing up. Asteroid, half the size of a giraffe, strikes Earth off the coast of Iceland. Oh, half the size of a giraffe. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, being half the size of a giraffe, I may have to remind the people who write for this news agency, we have this thing called an atmosphere, okay? Anything the size of a giraffe gets burned up harder than anything you could imagine, and basically pose little to no risk on Earth, especially when it falls into the water, okay? Maybe a goldfish might get whacked, okay? Maybe a shark won't make it to feeding that night, but that's pretty much how it goes. I don't know what the scientific assessment of asteroid half the size of a giraffe, where you start, how are you calculating with giraffe sizes? It makes no sense. Of course, they even show it. You see that? That's the asteroid half the size of a fucking giraffe coming near us. Now, if you thought that was wild and funny and wacky, well, it gets even wilder. Asteroid, this is from Forbes, by the way. I just want to... Forbes wrote this, okay? Any semblance of respect I once had for Forbes is all but gone. Asteroid, the size of a grand piano, strikes Earth and we knew exactly where and when, says NASA. Again, if you thought the giraffe was scary, well, the grand piano is just as scary. Some said it was the size of a stepladder. Others said it was more like half the size of it. It's the same asteroid again. But ladies and gentlemen, you can understand why everyone treats this as a joke. I don't know where the meme came out to just call these. Like, what's an asteroid the size of your mom? Asteroid the size of your dad? Here's one from Mashable, India, okay? All right, Bharati log bol rahe hain. Empire State Building sized asteroid is headed towards Earth. Watch out now. Up to 3 asteroids will pass by Earth. Among them is a huge asteroid the size of the Empire State Building. Now, again, if you look at that, that's an artist recreation, okay? Again, that looks a bit larger than the Empire State Building. I've seen what the Empire State Building looks like. It is far more smaller than this, okay? Come on now. It's smaller than the plume of smoke coming behind it. What's wrong with you? Now, of course, what's basically been going on here is NASA and the World Space Agencies have basically been detecting asteroids for quite a long time, okay? There's not too many space missions, but there are telescopes that constantly look into the sky. And believe it or not, a lot of the agencies around the world work in tandem to detect as many asteroids as they can. For instance, here's one from last year. NASA basically said that Earth is safe from one of the largest NEO object, which is near Earth orbit objects. One was known as Apophysis. That was basically, we're safe, for 100 plus years, okay? So, of course, if you look at this image real carefully, if you look at these massive clump of pixels, that's the asteroid, okay? That's the photograph we have. Again, they've made these nice little white circles to basically identify, that's the asteroid. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, this poses a slight risk of impacting Earth in 2068. But now even the radars have ruled it out. Here they even got like a video of it, how like basically this asteroid is coming near us. And this is our Earth right now, as you can see. As this asteroid comes near us, it has a bit of a close approach to Earth. You see, that's actually relatively closer than expected. But of course, it crosses Earth to find the intergalactic Dairy Queen a mile away from us. Now, of course, NEO objects are like this, okay? Basically, this is the list of Earth's upcoming close approaches with the asteroids, okay? Now, the green is anything less than 2 lunar distance, the yellow is anything with 1 lunar distance, and of course, there is no red. Actually, the red shows up in 2032, known as 2022 GA2, okay? Now, of course, they even got a cool little map that you can actually like scroll around in. So, like, if you were standing on Earth, that's what the asteroid would look like flying near you. Okay, so it's like it's just above Venus. All right, off perpendicular to Mars. That's what's coming near us. That is the scariest thing, and we don't have to worry about it until 2032, which, you know, that's 10 years from now. So it's not too far off. Okay, 10 years does fly by the older you get. Now, the reason I'm really interested about asteroids is, again, when it goes to the emergency alert system videos that I like to watch, here's one with the Asteroid Impact, okay? This is one from our boy Alert World. So I assume, you know, obviously not as pretty as this, NASA and observatories have basically observed this 16-mile-long asteroid coming near Earth. And for those of you who don't know what 16 miles long, like how much of a, 6-mile wide object, look at that. It will detonate with the force of 100,000 nuclear warheads going off at once and will lift an untold number of debris into the atmosphere. That's actually a little bit different, and we'll get into the math over there. But of course, when an asteroid comes near you, what are you going to do, okay? Because at this point, you have basically entered into certain death territory, okay? Sure, you might be able to seek some, clearance underground, maybe somewhere in a bunker deep, deep, safe away from the actual crater that's going to be caused with this impact. But there ain't nobody the world is basically ending at this point, okay? And of course, if nothing tells you about losing all form of hope, there is no way to grow food, and there is an endless winter that has claimed the Earth. Yes, truly, we have entered the end times in this case. Now, of course, NASA's entire job at this point, one of the main things, is to basically keep looking at NEO objects that are coming near the Earth, how big they are, and how close they could be to attack us, how close they could be to impact with us and cause some serious damage. Of course, the actual impact of it is not much at all. In fact, I believe the actual odds of us being hit by something like this is somewhere in like the 1 to 250,000 range. So you don't really have to worry too terribly much. Now, to remind you, earlier on in the beginning when they said never taking the asteroid shit seriously because they keep relating it to giraffes, grand pianos, and dildos, well, this is the Chicxulub. All right, asteroid. I hope I pronounced that one right. If you don't know what this is the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. Yes, one asteroid caused a mass extinction event. Now, of course, that hit the Gulf of Mexico. But because this is a roughly 6-mile wide asteroid that impacts Earth, you're talking about the actual detonation effect of 100 million megatons basically being hit into the Gulf of Mexico. Long story short, the dinosaurs had no chance. They had no intellectual capacity to look up and say, yeah, that's going to hit us. And when it did hit them, it might have been the quickest, most painless death. To be honest with you, if this thing would ever actually attack Earth, if we ever are in collision course with something this large, I want to be under the meteor, okay? I want to be burned to a crisp within seconds, okay, before the meteor hitting, okay? Because guaranteeing the world after the meteor strike will not be a world you want to witness, okay? Just putting it out there. So now what really hits me with the whole existential crisis shit is, obviously, we can't even control what happens, okay, when this occurs. It's not like, when you think about nuclear weapons, right? Like, hey, maybe we can use diplomacy and probably thwart that, okay? This is something completely out of the world's control, right? Like, if a meteor the size of this, which the chance of it is very little, but remember, we are in a space, we are in a world where just big rocks are flying around. And granted, thanks to an atmosphere, a lot of those rocks end up becoming pebbles once they come into contact with Earth, once they come into actual collision. Now, that said, though, all right, again, going back to it, this is something that obviously we cannot control. If an asteroid the size of, if an asteroid that's like miles wide is heading towards Earth pretty directly, then you know what? We're basically fucked, okay? Because we have not evolved our technology to get off Earth really at the moment. And if we have, it's really only for the billionaires. To be real with you, okay, if this is coming near Earth, we have no way. We might as well just bend over and just take it at that point, because that's pretty much what happens when an asteroid is coming that close to us. Which is why I always laugh at those articles in the beginning, because man, they really do make they really do make a joke out of it. If we ever actually came into a situation, nobody would believe it. Absolutely no one would believe it, okay? Even with all the national alert systems going off, everyone would still wonder, we've already been told this 100 times before in the last decade. What's the difference? Okay, but like you might be like, Muda, it can't all be bad news. And you know what? Listen, throughout history, we've always seen close NEO objects. For instance, this is all the way back in the day, the Grand Teton Meteor, which is a near miss. Somebody recorded this with 8mm cameras. So if you look over there, I think it's like a roughly 40-foot asteroid or something, just like floating by. That is a small boy. All right. I don't even think it's 40 feet, but it's a small boy just floating past the Earth. Okay. And we've had a few near misses with NEOs like that, where it's actually gotten to the point where it's so visible we can see it. But of course, nothing the point of 6 mile wides. Okay. We haven't gotten to like moonfall territory. Now, what's really wild is, okay, what happens if we actually get into that situation? Do we have mitigation strategies? And I didn't know this until today, but yes, we do have mitigation strategies. Now, of course, if something is actually coming near us in our field, one of the most practical ways we can actually accomplish this is through nuclear weapons. So, of course, one of the ways that we hit it is actually with a nuclear explosive device. So either we shoot it right at the thing, just under it or whatever, to basically create an explosion that'll help deflect, maybe not just vaporize an object, but to like absolutely maybe shift course correction, okay? Do something. Because that's about the best you can get. Now, of course, there's even more science fiction-y ways of kind of avoiding it, and some of them are kind of hilarious, okay? Let's look at a few of them. For instance, this alien ass shit where we get like a solar magnifier, all right, like a little space magnifying glass. We position it in front of the sun, and it just gets to start working on like burning the actual asteroid. To understand this, I don't even know if we have the means to create something this massive and get it sent up in time for an attack. That itself, ladies and gentlemen, is such a wild meme to witness. And believe it or not, at some point we actually have a half-kilometer like solar sail that we can use to help divert course correction to it. Again, when this thing is, when we are in a situation like this, to understand, we're mostly fucked, okay? We're mostly screwed, all right? We mostly are, it's the end of the world. You might as well kiss your family goodbye, because at the moment of impact, you're vaporized, okay? Especially if you're anywhere close to the region, because any asteroid of that size is going to cause a nuclear explosion that is just massive. To understand how large that the asteroid that killed the dinosaur, that explosion, that's about 2 million like SAR bombas roughly. If you don't know what a SAR bomba is, that is the biggest explosive warhead humanity has ever created back in the time of the Cold War. We would need like 2 million of them to even match roughly to what the actual massive asteroid, the life extinction asteroid we've ever had. But this is just one little end of the world scenario. I'm a huge fan of this kind of shit. Before we end this off, okay, quite literally, one of the ways the world can, if the world never ends in a conventional method, humanity still has an end of the world scenario, okay? Let's assume we just become cyborgs or something. Because of the universe cooling down, we can cool down so hard, okay, that eventually, let's say that humanity and nothing ever dies, if we even convert ourselves into cyborgs or energy beings, we would still have to put ourselves into permanent sleep and then eventually die off because the energy reserves, the universe is cooled off so hard that it just becomes too cold to operate efficiently in. That's a wild situation right there. We still have end of the world scenarios, end of the universe scenarios. But ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. This is my existential crisis. To be real with you, if out there one day in the great expanse that I see a meteor flying towards us, whew, that's scary. That really is scary. Boy, actually just thinking about it freaks me out. But you know what? The chance of that happening is very little. So if it does happen, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised, I'll say that much. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.